Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to take some time to talk about an issue that affects every person in the goth community as well as members of other alternative subcultures. Whether you're a baby bat interested in learning more about the negative stereotypes the subculture has, or someone who may even be guilty of assuming these stereotypes are true, I invite you to join me, and who knows, you might even learn a thing or two. Depression and mental illness. Probably one of the most common stereotypes about goth people is that they're either very unhappy or suffer from mental illnesses. From what I believe, the reason behind this is that people refuse to see goth people just as normal people who have different interests than them. They assume that one has to be mentally unwell in order to be so weird and different from what they assume the norm is. This can start off innocently enough, but it can also be used in a very malicious way against goth people, such as assuming that we are actively suicidal or self-harming and making harmful comments about it. People from all walks of life suffer from mental illnesses and suicidal thoughts, and chalking it down to goth people just being mentally unwell because we look different is really harmful. First of all, this glamorizes mental illness, making it out to just be an attention-seeking behavior where one dresses in goth fashion and partakes in an interest in dark and mysterious subjects. Depression and mental illness are so much more than this, and making it out to be a fashion accessory discounts how much individuals with mental illnesses, such as depression, actually suffer in their day-to-day life. Secondly, it reinforces the idea that one has to be sick or unwell to be goth, which is simply untrue. Many goth people are very cheery and friendly individuals, and no goth is the same. Objectification and fetishism. This stereotype is a long-standing issue, although it has become a more public problem online in the era of TikTok and Instagram. This stereotype comes from the fact that there is a clear style inspiration taken by goth fashion from different styles of fetish and BDSM gear. Latex, chains, chokers, harnesses, etc. These accessories being associated with kink and fetish culture bring to mind the idea that wearers of said accessories and fashions are part of the kink or BDSM communities. And although there is actually a subgenre of goths known as fetish goths, which often, not all the time, are part of the kink community, this doesn't mean that every goth person is a part of these communities or is even a sexual person whatsoever. Like I said before, the internet has only added fuel to the fire with trends and memes such as big titty goth GF. I speak on behalf of almost every person in the goth community when I say being fetishized is a daily part of being active online, especially as a semi-popular content creator. Content creator as in safe for work content. You have no idea how many people assume I have an OnlyFans or sell NSW content just because of the stuff I wear and the fact that I express myself as goth. I'm sure that many other goth people, especially women, can attest to this issue. This stereotype seems like it comes from a place of admiration and simply finding goth people really attractive until you start to notice major objectification that comes from this stereotype. I don't know what about me makes 40-year-old men assume that I want them to send me sexual advances along with wiener pictures, but I only assume it has something to do with the fetishization and objectification of goth people, and more commonly, goth women. Seriously guys, there is a reason I have this in my bio. Being called mommy induces a trauma response at this point. You have to dress goth to be goth. No matter who you are, there is a certain image that comes to your head when you think about someone dressed in goth fashion. Is it the bat's nest, the classic trad goth makeup? Many people inside and outside of the goth community have assumptions of what a goth person should look like. And I've got to say, this issue is fairly prevalent among gatekeepers of the goth community, assuming that one must constantly be dressed in full gothic regalia to be considered a real goth. This is utterly untrue. Being goth is so much more than just dressing to the standards that people have created for you in order to be considered goth. Whether you are a baby bat new to the subculture or a veteran goth who simply cannot afford to dress fully goth all the time, you are still completely valid and beautifully goth. Goths are devil-worshipping Satanists. Satanism is a completely valid practice, which is not a religion in itself, rather more of an anti-religion. For those who don't know much about Satanism, I just describe it as a more aggressive form of atheism. People outside of the Goth community love to push the agenda that Goths are all devil-worshipping Satanists that commit evil acts and participate in rituals where they sacrifice babies. The people that assume these stereotypes are true most often are in the older demographic and lived through the satanic panic of the 1980s and 90s. Two things. One, Goth people can be part of any religion. From what I've noticed, there's actually a ton of Christian Goths. Some people have left comments on my videos telling me that they are Christian and Goth, and I hope you guys are doing well. I love you. You're awesome. You're super cool. Mwah. The second thing is that there are actually Goths who do identify as Satanists. And guess what? This doesn't make them evil or bad people. One of the best things about the Goth community is that people from any religion or culture can be part of it. And despite our differences as people with different religious beliefs, we can all come together with common interests and care about each other. I find this really beautiful. Whether you're a Satanist, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever, you are still 100% Goth, and I think that is absolutely beautiful. It's just a phase. No, just no! This is something that a lot of parents and family members of young baby bats tend to say a lot, and it is really spirit-breaking. If your child has found a genuine interest in the music, literature, and culture of the Goth community, why would you want to belittle them by telling them that it's just a phase? So what if their interest in the Goth subculture doesn't last forever? That's not a negative thing. For some people, being Goth isn't a lifelong thing. Maybe it helped them get through a hard time mentally. Maybe they thought they were Goth and actually ended up being a different subculture instead. That is completely valid and nothing to be ashamed of. But as a matter of fact, a large percentage of people who are in the Goth community stick with it for life. Why do you think the term elder Goth exists in the first place? There are people who are literally considered elderly that are part of the community. And guess what? I bet somebody probably told them it was a phase too. You have to be white to be Goth. This is just racist, like straight up racist. Being Goth has absolutely nothing to do with race or skin color. As a matter of fact, a lot of Goth fashion is taken from or inspired by people of color. A lot of white Goths wear locks. This hairstyle is taken directly from people of color, originally dating back to year 500 before Common Era in Africa, as well as other countries dominated by people of color. Locks are huge in hippie Goth and cyber Goth fashion, and this trend would simply not exist without people of color introducing the style to the subculture in the first place. Goth has no ideal race or ethnicity. People from all over the world, no matter their race, can identify as Goth. Music plays a major role in the Goth subculture. Bands such as Bauhaus or Susie and the Banshees paved the way for the Goth rock music genre, which has since expanded exponentially with thousands of bands and artists making all kinds of Goth music to fit the taste of every Goth, from Victorian to cyber Goth. But sadly, people love to gatekeep as a means of feeling superior to others. The whole, oh, you like this band? Name 10 songs and every one of their albums trope is very real and very annoying. The people who suffer the most from being gatekept out of the community are often young women. Gatekeepers prey upon them by trying to exclude them from the subculture because they don't know every single detail about a specific band or group. This enforces the idea that many young women are just posers looking for attention, pretending to be Goth. This hurts everyone in the community. What would the subculture be without newcomers discovering Goth culture and falling in love with it? If you have to be the perfect Goth, it builds fear in not being Goth enough, which can lead some individuals not wanting to express themselves gothically whatsoever. This is pretty sad when you think about it. So, to everyone out there who has been called a poser or is not a real goth because they don't know every single thing about a certain band or topic, you are completely valid and 100% still goth. Don't listen to those stinky old gatekeepers. Goth and emo are the same thing. This is a more recent phenomenon appearing online and in high schools around the world. Young kids will see a goth or alternative person and immediately refer to them as emo because they either don't know the difference or think it's somehow offensive to call them emo. Emo and goth are similar, but at the same time, worlds apart. Some goths even borrow certain aspects of emo fashion and combine the styles. Some even listen to both emo and goth music. As a matter of fact, a lot of goths from my generation, such as myself, actually grew up listening to a lot of emo music, which then blossomed into an interest in goth music as well. All of these scenarios are quite common, and if you're not knowledgeable on alternative subcultures, you may not know the difference. But calling someone who is goth emo in order to offend or make fun of them is just frankly kind of stupid. Most of the time, they will just simply correct you on your mistake and be on their way. Well, that's about it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sure some of you can definitely relate to these stereotypes being used against you. And if you are someone who is not goth, watching this video as a way to learn more about goth culture and possibly correct some mistakes or assumptions you have made in the past, I thank you on behalf of the community. You're helping make the world a more welcoming place for goths around the world. If you want to see more videos like this and more content from me, make sure you subscribe and follow me on my other socials in the link tree down below. I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.